Good morning, Ruben, are you on? Harvey, you on?
I'm on.
Harvey, who out? Ruben?
Yeah, he's there.
Louder.
Well, he just was. I don't know where he went. He just was.
Okay.
I don't know where he went.
Okay, I'm going to start the sponsors and then we'll get underway. A year of learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, in memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman Edelbat Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, China bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata bat Asher. Friends of Nina Mornesta, Nechama Azna bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdal, Zecha Nishmat, Simcha Melech ben Meir Leib Halevi. Friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha. Month of Learning by Haran and Mel Haller in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bas Yehuda Leib. Bri Pizer in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim ben David. Tova and Leo Zimmer in memory of her mother, Tanya Bad Rav Beryl, and her father, Aaron ben Yosef Mordechai. Perry and Joe Meltzer in memory of his mother, Malka Bat Baruch, and his sister, Golda Leah Bas David Halevi. Stanley Presser in memory of his mother-in-law, Golda Bas Liber, his mother, Leah Bas Yehuda, his wife, Rachel Mincha Bas Moshe. Carol and Josh Sanborn in memory of her father, Yeshua Shia ben Moshe Yehuda Kohen. David and Sharon Carpel in memory of his father, Zeb Moshe ben Shlomo Yaakov. A week of learning by Barbara Gellendauer in memory of her husband, Avram ben Yonatzan. Sylvia Gudis in memory of her mother, Dvorah bat Ruben Chaim. Sam Levine and Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of Sam's parents and Charlie's in-laws, Liv Shabbat Avram Shammai, Yechiel Michal ben Arav Alexander Ziskin. Today is the 20th, the day of learning by Anne and Dave Clar in memory of her mother, Gittel Bas Yaakov. Okay, and we also wash a Levua Shlema to Esti Moskowitz, daughter of Rabbi Philip Moskowitz. Okay. May Shemus have an aliyah, crank Rafael Velta, Yeshua Rishayim Matzliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel, good Gabenshtia. Okay. Right, so we're on the top of Chet Amud Aleph, a reminder that we were discussing the status of a house. Okay, and the question the Gemara concluded, where we concluded in the Gemara on the top of the Amud, okay, was that hu eitzim va'avanim ba'alma lo mit'amu v'hacha mit'amu. Okay, in this case, it's saying it's going to become tameh, whereas normally the house, okay, since it's made out of wood and stone, and usually this is attached to the ground, and as a result, therefore, it does not become normally tum. Okay, and that's where we stopped. It's sort of the middle of the discussion. Okay, the discussion is going to pick up and continue with Rebbe, right? The Rebbe Amar, it's tarich. We needed to say this, right? What happens? Right? In other words, remember Rebbe did a drasha between the pasuk saying that the Kohen sees it versus the fact that whether or not he could see it or not see it, or otherwise. Okay, and another pasuk. Okay, the Rebbe Amar Hitztarich. It was needed to say and point this out from both psukim. Why? Because that's what we're gonna get to now. Okay? Says Rebbe. De'i katav Rachmana uvayom harot bo. Had the Hashem only written, had we only the pasuk, ubayom harot bo, only that pasuk, hava amina, ledavar mitzvah in ledavar harishut lo. Rebbe saying, had that been the case, I could have thought to say that in this case, only in an example that there had a issue of a mitzvah. Okay, like the example of the chassid, okay, that we saw, that would be the situation where the Kohen should refrain from examining, put it off, okay? But in another situation, all right, a devar reshut, okay, where there was option, a situation there, that was the second case, I would have said no. Katav Rachmana v'tziva haKohen. However, the second pasuk that the Torah says, v'tziva haKohen, okay, it says he commands the Kohen.
No, the Kohen commands them that.
Well, we'll get to it in a second, okay? All right. So what happens? Ve'ikatav Rachmana v'tziva haKohen. And had the Kohen, had it been that the Torah only said the Kohen makes a statement, okay? So what is the issue of the statement? Okay? Implying again that the Kohen has some latitude, okay, in his declaration, because what is he doing? He's allowing them enough time to remove furniture, other things from the house before he clearly states its status. Okay, otherwise we said whatever would be in the, once he makes the declaration, whatever is in the house is, okay, is also. That's what you tell him. No, you could tell him.
Exactly.
Okay, that's the question. Do you tell them, take out the furniture? Okay,
100%, why not?
okay, or you could tell them, I must declare the status of this house, okay, in a certain way.
No, he tells them.
I hear what you're saying. He can
And
do
then he
both
asks them what time of the moving men comes. So
I don't know.
after
I don't
that.
know. He has to at least intimate to them,
Right,
okay?
ways.
Whether he says it before Hesia,
right.
I haven't seen it written anywhere. That's all I can tell you. Good question, especially from a Kohen, okay? Okay. If you need to, I'll call you over to my neighbor who discovered mold in their apartment, okay?
If I can save people money in such a situation, by all means.
Okay.
There's a liberal.
Okay, ve'ikatav Rachmana v'tziva haKohen, hava amina. If that was the only pasuk that we've had, right? Hani in delav tuma de gufe. I might say here, yes, because it does not have tuma, particularly to his person. Okay, aval tuma de gufe, but regarding saras of person, ema. Here I might have thought, therefore, I have an absolute requirement to examine, okay, and inform, okay, as opposed to defer, okay? So what happens? Sricha. Therefore, we need both. Okay, now we come to a new piece. All right, Amar Mar. Yesh yom she'ata ro'eh bo, v'yesh yom she'ata ro'eh bo. Mai mashma. Says the Gemara. There are days that you see it, days that you don't see it. In other words, you don't examine. Okay? What's the situation? Amar Abaye, im kain lichtov rachmana biyom. Okay? Mai ubayom. So the language in the pasuk says, and on that day. Why doesn't it simply say on that day? Right? Shmamina. Yesh yom she'ata ro'eh bo, v'yesh yom she'ata ro'eh bo. which implies, says Abaye, there are days that you do see it, you do examine. There are days that you don't examine. Again, remember, this all ties back to what we said earlier about the status of the Kohen having that responsibility authority. Okay, we go on. Rabba, says Rabba, different explanation. Kula kra yiterahu. The entire pasuk is extraneous, he says. Okay, it's right, it's superfluous. The imkain lechtov rachmana ubaharot. Otherwise, the Torah could have said, phrased it differently, and used the phrase ubaharot, so to speak, on the occasion that you examine. All right? My uvayom. So what do we mean then when it says on the day? Shmamina yesh yom she'ataro ebo, yesh yom she'iyataro ebo. Okay? So Rav is just darshaning it in a different way.
The whole word.
Right. Okay, and just a different style of drush. Okay, Va'abaye. Okay, so Abaye, so the Gemara is going to ask it naturally its question. How come Abaye didn't darshan it like Rava did and vice versa? Okay, all right. Va'abaye, hahum Abaye le biyom v'lo b'layla. Okay, he didn't darshan it that way. He says he needed the word bayom to tell us that the examination has to be during daytime and not during night. The Rabbah, and as far as Rabbah goes, bayom velo balayla minale, the fact that it has to be done during day and not at night, where does he derive that from? Nafkale mi lakol mar'e einei hakohen. Okay, he derives it from another part of a pasuk, from all which is, I'm going to translate it as visible, okay, by the eyes of the Kohen. Yeah, by the eyes of the Kohen.
In today's world, I actually say that one would say that if you see it by, let's say, halogen lights, then that's
We'll
fine.
get to that
And the
question.
other
We'll get to that question.
would say, no, that's
Okay.
daytime.
Va'abai, hahumid bayale lema'ute suma be'achat me'enav. Okay, and Abai says, no, we need that pasuk to tell us that it excludes a Kohen who is blind in one eye. Okay, he has to see it with both eyes. Right? V'Rabba nami mibayale lahachi. But Rabba also needs that because he also holds by the same halacha. And yes, hachinami here too. Ve'ela bayom v'lo balayla minale. So then during the day and not at night. Okay, by daylight. Okay, how do we know this? Nafkale, he learns it from another situation. Naga nir'eh li babayit. Okay, from the naga, from the spot, whatever that's seen in the house. Li velo la'ori, seen by me and not by alternative light situations.
Today we would say that would apply to magnifiers or if the Kohen
Well,
wears
whatever. Va'abaye, and Abaye, ime hatem hava amina. If from there I would have said as follows, hani mili tuma delav de gufe. I would have said that it was perhaps a situation of another kula of Rabbi Meir. All right?
That pasuk is talking about houses.
Okay, yeah, but
So
that's
he said
the
it only
issue.
applies to houses,
That's-
it might not apply to people.
That's true, but that would be another kula of Rabbi Meir's situation. Okay, velo, all right. Mehatem hava amina hani mili tuma delav de gufe. It applies to things that only don't apply to saras on the person, but other kinds. All right, which would still be a kula of Rabbi Meir. Aval tuma de gufe afilu la'oro nami. But even if it's a saras of himself, of his person, what about that? Maybe then we might consider using another light source or permitting another light source. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that's not the case. Okay. New Mishnah. Va'od, says our Mishnah. And furthermore, okay? So we're now dealing on, again, issue of Chol HaMoed. Amar Rabbi Meir. Right? Okay. What else? Right? Milaket Adam Atzamot Aviv Ve'imo. Mipnei shesamcha hi lo. All right, that Rabbi Meir permits the gathering of the bones. Okay, remember what they did is they sort of put aside the body, waited for the flesh to decay. Okay, after a certain time, then they would come back and gather the bones and then bury the bones. Okay, and the implication is the day that they do the burying of the burying of the bone, gathering and burying of the bones. Do we say that that is a day of joy for the Avel because they get to do that mitzvah of burial? Or do we say it's a day of sadness for the Avel? That's going to be part of the machlok. Okay, so what happens here? So Rabbi Meir says it's a day of joy for him. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Evel Hulo, that it is a day of mourning. Okay, all right, it's a sad day for him. Okay, now further statement in the Mishnah: Lo ye'orer adam al meito. A person cannot arouse lamentation for his deceased, and we'll clarify that later on in the Gemara, because the Gemara is going to have a discussion on that. V'lo yaspidenu kodem laregel shloshim yom. And one should not offer eulogies, okay, 30 days before the holiday. And the Gemara is going to have to go into detail in that as well. Okay? Now, we're minhu, says the Gemara, but we have a contradiction that says as follows in a Braita. Hamilaket atzamot aviv imo, one who gathers the bones of his father and his mother, harei zeh mitabel alehen kol hayom, that he is expected to mourn the entire day. Ula'erev ein mitabel alehen, and for the night, at nighttime, he does not mourn on them. Va'amar Rav Chisda, and Rav Chisda then says, afilu tsurim lo b'se'adino. That includes even if he has the bones bundled in his sheet. Okay, he's got them
prepared to be.
in other words, he's collected them, he's got them in some sort of a bag or a container, but he hasn't buried them yet. Okay, what happens? Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Ema, I would say, mipnei simchat haregel alav. Okay, why? In other words, don't say because it's a simcha for him, the day of the bone collection and burial, but say it's because of the need of the issue of rejoicing on the holiday.
And he
That-
can't make
Okay,
himself enough.
and therefore he can't, if it's that close to the Yom Tov, okay, you have this tension between the requirement to mourn on the day of gathering the bones versus the tension of celebrating and rejoicing on the Yom Tov. Okay, V'lo ya'arer al meito, said the translation I had, arouse lamentation. Mai lo ya'arer al meito. What does that mean? Amar Rav, says Rav, kad hadar safdana b'ma'arava amre. Okay, he's saying that in the Ma'arava, right, in Eretz Yisrael, they used to hire professional eulogers. Okay, all right, that's the implication, right? That's what they say. V'yivkon imei kol merire liba. And then others would cry along with that individual who are bitter in heart, who have lost, right, a loved one. Kodem haregel, before the holiday, shloshim yom. When we say why this period, why do we define it clearly as 30 days before the holiday? My shna shloshim yom, what's so unique or special about 30 days? Okay, Amar Rav Kahana, so Rav Kahana, Amar Rav Yehuda, in the name of Rav Yehuda, name of Rav, Ma'aseh ba'adam echad, shekineis ma'od la'alot l'regel. One day, a certain individual who saved up his money to go to Jerusalem for the Aliyah l'regel, right, for one of the Yom Tevin, uba safdan va'amad al petach beito, and came one of these professional eulogers, and they stood at his doorway. Okay, v'nataltan ishto v'natan tan lo. She took the money, his wife, and she gave it to the professional euloger, right? V'nimna, and therefore he was prevented. Okay, was going on the Aliyah, right, for the holiday. V'lo Allah, and he didn't go. Ba'ota sha'a amru, at that same time they said, Lo ye'orer al meito, v'lo yespidanu kodem l'regel shloshim yom. That therefore one should not arouse the lamentations or give eulogies 30 days before the holiday. Okay? Ushmuel Amar, and Shmuel says as we go to the next Amud, Lafi she'ein hamet mishtakeach min halev shloshim yom. Okay, since the deceased is not forgotten from the heart, in other words, one doesn't stop remembering for 30 days. Okay?
They were criticizing the wife for paying the eulogists. They were
Yeah,
criticizing.
no, they were criticizing the wife for taking her husband's money.
They were criticizing her, period.
Okay. Period.
Right? Okay.
They
What-
had different lifestyle.
Okay.
And
Right.
that's risky business.
All right. Okay. In other words, all right, that was the point. All right. So what happens? Min halev shloshim yom. So the Gemara asks here, my beinayu, what's the difference between them? Ika beinayu de ka'avid b'chinam. Okay, the difference is where the eulogizer is willing to do it for free. Okay, that's the difference. In that case, all right, that's a different situation. If he's willing to do it for free,
That would be enough to me.
okay, then in that situation, okay, it would be permitted to,
If we paskin, that's the
right, if
rationale.
that's the difference, then one could eulogize within 30 days of the holiday, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Yeah,
We're talking about someone who's now gathered bones, right?
No, not you.
no, we've moved to a different topic, okay? Before we dealt with the gathering bones,
This is a
okay?
standard.
Now we're talking about a different situation, okay? All right. All right, new Mishnah, third line from the top on Chet Amud Beis. Okay, again, we're dealing with issues of death, burial, etc. Okay, the word kuchin, okay, is a crypt, C-R-Y-P-T. Okay, Koren has an actual picture of examples. Okay, if you've ever gone to certain places in Eretz Yisrael, okay, inside a cave, they dig out what I'll call for the moment a niche, a loch. Okay, they dig out an area, and that was where they would, well,
They would put the body.
they would put the
to
body
sink.
to wait for the flesh to be decay, so then they could gather the bones. Okay, Sanhedria.
Is also a preliminary stage.
Right.
It's not
Okay.
what we think of.
Right, Sanhedria is one location. There are others in Israel too.
Doing it
That I don't know. Okay,
Moshe carried the Atzmos Yosef.
right, that's a different example, right. So our Mishnah tells us, Ein chofrin kuchin v'kvarot b'moed. We do not dig crypts, brand new crypts, I'm going to point out, and the graves on Chol Hamoed.
These are really mausoleums because it's above ground. We'll see that.
I don't know. Aval mechanchin et hakuchin b'moed. But one may adjust, I'm going to say, use the word there, okay? Adjust a crypt on Chol HaMoed, okay? All right, so what does that mean, adjust? We're going to have to see in the Gemara, okay? Next, va'osin nivrechet b'moed. One can make what I'm going to call a laundry pool, okay, on Chol HaMoed. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 1 second. All right, what do we mean by a laundry pool? Go ahead, Michael. Now,
If there are three conditions in which you're allowed to launder on Kol HaMoed. You get out of jail, you got off a ship, etc. So it was impossible earlier. So they used to dig out and make a pit in the chutzner in order to do the laundry. So if your husband just got out of jail, your wife can wash your clothes because they didn't launder in the jail.
okay, that would be
But so this halacha is only applies to, or ketanim, diapers. So this halacha only applies to people for whom it is mutter to bathe or to change clothes.
may, all right. All right,
It's not
va'ara,
a general heter to buy a washing machine on Kol HaMoed.
no, you wouldn't buy it, right? All right, let's go on. Va'aron im hamet b'chatzer. And notice, okay, another condition, va'aron, and the coffin, okay, with the deceased is in the courtyard. All right, we're going to have to clarify that. Rabbi Yehuda oser ela im kein yesh imo nisarim. And Rabbi Yehuda forbids this unless there are existing wooden planks or boards that were cut before the holiday and then only need to be attached in order to make the coffin. Okay? Gemara. My kuchen asks the Gemara, umay kvarot. What are crypts and what are the graves? Okay. Amar Rav Yehuda. Says Rav Yehuda, kuchin bechafira ukvarot b'binyan. When we say a crypt, there we're talking about digging, I'm going to say inside of the cave, all right, or inside of a location. Kivarot, when we're talking about graves, we're talking about some sort of a building. That's the difference. Okay, a reminder that in Eretz Yisrael, okay, if you look at graves, all right, you will see that they have some, right, when they make a grave, okay, that's a little different. That's a little different, but it's still not like we see here in the States.
This, in both cases, we're talking about the first round, not the permanent interment, but the temporary interment.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure of that. Okay, let's go on. Tanya Nami Hachi. Okay, Braita teaches as follows. Elu hein kuchin, these are the crypts. Ve'elu hein kvarot, and these are the graves. Kuchin, okay, when we talk about crypts, bechafira, that's done through digging. Ukvarot, and graves, bebinyan, these are done through building. Okay, now, what happens? We come back immediately to our Mishnah. Aval mechanchin et hakuchayin, but we can adjust, prepare, okay, the kuchin. What does that mean? Ketzad mechanchin. What do we mean when we say we can adjust them? Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda. She'im haya aroch mekatzro. That if it's too long, okay, and we're not talking about the mace, all right, we're talking about the size of the hole that's dug into the wall of the cave, okay? So if it's too long, we can shorten it, okay? B'matnita Tana, and we see this taught in a Mishnah, ma'arich bo u'marchiv bo. It's permissible to enlarge it, stretch it, or it's permissible to widen it. Okay, So in other words, when the mace is ready to be put temporarily into the crypt, okay, if it doesn't fit, okay, that already pre-dug hole, so to speak, then it is permissible to adjust it. Alan,
I'm just saying lengthening it. If a person is very tall and very large, but shortening it, I mean, certainly a body can fit into a hole that is too big for it. Why would you, follow, the colmoid just to make the thing shorter when the body will fit into it in its full length?
okay,
Good point. That's why,
all right.
but that's why I'm saying this is talking about the first round. If the bones are in too deep, then you're gonna have difficulty relocating.
Okay, that would be one explanation. The other explanation is elsewhere in the Gemara, we have learned the fact about crypts. And the question was, in the cave, how were they dug? Okay, you might remember that art scroll had specific diagrams showing, could you dig a crypt on a diagonal, okay, and not just along the sides, okay? So that could also be another reason that it
Make
may
room
be
for
necessary to make room for other bodies, okay? Okay, so what happens? We're now back to the laundry ponds now. Va'osin nivcheret, right? Nivrechet, I'm sorry, Va. My nivrechet, what is it? Amarav Yehuda Ravina, Zo Bakia. We could call this a ditch for washing clothes. Okay. Vahatanya. But aren't we taught in a Braita? Hanivrechet Vahabakia. That both things are referred to, which would imply that they are two separate items, two separate issues. Amar Abai says Abai v'itema Rav Kahana. Others say Rav Kahana, Geha ubar Geha. Just as we have a pond and a smaller pond,
Overflow.
okay, we could have a situation where we have a large laundry pond and then a ditch, okay, to the side for overflow water. Okay? No, in other words, what you'd have is you'd have an existing pond, okay? And then you dig a small ditch so that there would, and create a channel from the large pond, that some water would flow from that into the smaller area. And that small area, the ditch, let's say, would be used for the
But
large.
that's so that you don't turn the whole chutzner into a
Right.
mud puddle.
Okay. Va'aron im hamet b'chatzar, and all right, a coffin with the deceased in the courtyard. Tanina laha, the Tanu Rabbanan. We learned this as the rabbis taught. Osin kol tzorchei hamet, that it's permissible to do all of the items necessary for the benefit of the deceased. For example, gozazin lo sa'aro, we can cut his hair. Umechabsin lo ksuto, and we can wash the shroud, okay? Va'osin lo aron, okay, minisarim, okay, and we can make the coffin from boards. Haminusarin me erev yom tov, that have been prepared, I'll say, from before the holiday.
So you're talking about this malachas were permitted on Yom Tov itself?
On Chol HaMoed.
Moed.
Chol HaMoed. Okay. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, he says, Af mevi'in eitzim u'minasarin b'tzin'a b'toch beito. And according to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, one could even bring the wood in to their home and in, want to say secret, in private, okay? Discreetly, right?
Yeah, no, this is introducing
Cut them
another
and
level
prepare them.
of Chol HaMoed restrictions. If a malacha has to be done for a legitimate reason, it's preferable to do it as privately as possible.
It could be. I didn't see that shot anywhere.
Well, in halacha, there are several instances.
Near to Israel today, they don't use coffins. So clearly it's permissible to bury somebody without a coffin. So why would you be permitted then to build a coffin on Chol Moed if you can bury without one?
I'll have to look into that.
Again, this is the first round where you
Okay.
want to keep the bones in a neat pile.
Okay.
You can't
That
just
might be.
bury them in dirt because then you have to sort
It's
out.
always
the
this
bones.
guy Mara's side.
Okay, that's a question. All right, I think that could be one option, okay? I don't know if throughout Eretz Yisrael, they don't use coffins, to be honest,
You don't do this whole procedure.
okay? We don't follow the practice of putting the body away, waiting, and then gathering, that we
If
don't
the
do.
body can be buried without a coffin, why would you be permitted? to
I
bury it
understand the
without a
We're not
question.
They did not bury the body.
coffin? I understand that.
They
but if-
stored
they
the
stored the
body
body-
temporarily,
Yeah,
and then
that was- that
several
wasn't a
months
burial,
later.
really.
So here, you want to keep the bones together. You put it in a container.
Right, we'll get to.
When you reinter, you can reinter without a coffin.
Right.
Why didn't they do it?
They didn't bury immediately, okay? That was their practice, right? The practice in the time of Chazal was to take the deceased, okay? I'm gonna put the phrase, store the deceased for a certain amount of time, okay? Till it was reduced to bones
And then bury.
and then bury.
Actually, in the crypts that I've seen in Eretz Israel, going touring, it's actually very practical because the bones take up a lot less space in the crypt than a body.
Right, but they don't they may not necessarily leave the bones.
No, what I'm saying is the
There.
bones.
He's saying the
the-
permanent
the
storage.
The ancient bones that we've seen
Right,
were generally bent into a position that a body could never be bent into. And it takes up a lot less room
Right.
in the ground than a body would.
right. Okay, our new Mishnah is going to deal with, again, aspects of Chol HaMoed, okay? Where it is not, where there are limitations in activities. Number one, Ein nosin nashim b'moed. One doesn't marry during Chol HaMoed,
First time.
right? Lo betulot, not virgins, velo almonot, and not widows. Velo miyabmim, and we don't perform yibum, mipnei shesimcha hi lo, right? Right, because he's joyful. Aval machzir hu et grushato. But a person who divorced a wife and then wants to take her back and remarry her may do so. And the note in the Koran translation was because clearly in the translation, not even a note, because he's not happy.
No, because if he dumped her once, it's because he didn't get along.
Okay,
So obviously, it's not going to be simply a say.
right. All right.
long as he's not a Kohen.
Okay. Va'oseh, okay. What else?
Not every-
All right, come on. Okay. Va'oseh isha tachshiteha b'moed. And a woman may utilize her cosmetic treatments on Chol HaMoed. Okay, she may put makeup on and everything on Chol HaMoed. Okay, I don't know if I would go that far. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, lo tasud, but she cannot apply lime. Okay, it was a depilatory, right? Mipnei shenivul hula. Why? Because that makes her ugly. All right. Hahedyot tofer kedarko. The average person, if they have a tear in their garment, can stitch it up in a regular manner. Vahaomein, but the professional tailor, okay, machliv, he can only put in temporary stitches. Umisargin et hamitot, and another issue. Okay, the question is, says the Mishnah, one can interweave the ropes that are used as the bed frame, okay, on Yom Tov, on Chol HaMoed. Rabbi Yossi Omer Tachin. According to Rabbi Yossi, you can only tighten them, you cannot interweave them to make ropes, bread frame initially. Gemara. V'chi simcha hilo ma'ihave, asks the Gemara. You think you're saying it's a question of joy? All right. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, V'chein Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, V'amar Amrela, and others say, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Lafi she'ein ma'arbin simcha b'simcha, because one doesn't intermix one joy with another joy. Rabba bar bar Huna Amar, Mipnei shemaniach simchat haregel, v'osek b'simchat ishto. Why? Because he puts aside the joy of the holiday in order to have joy with his wife. Amarle, he says to him, Abai, the Rav Yosef. Ha, the Rabba bar Rav Huna, the Rav who? That statement of Rabba bar Rav Huna was actually a statement of Rav's. The Amar Rav Daniel bar Katina Amar Rav. As Rav Daniel bar Katina said in the name of Rav, Minayin she'ein nos'in nashim b'moed. What is the reason that we don't have marriages in Chol HaMoed? She'emen Amar v'samachta b'chagecha. It says it, rejoice with the holiday. B'chagecha v'lo b'ishtecha. With your holiday and not with your wife. Okay? Ula Amar says, Ula mipnei hatorach, because of the exertion. Okay, right? Weddings are a big deal. Exactly. We got a lot of tircha with the weddings, right? Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar mipnei bitul pirya urivya. Why? Because he would refrain from fulfilling his primary mitzvah. Mei tivei, and we'll finish up. Mei tivei, a challenge in a braita. Kol elu she'amru asurim lisei b'moed. All of these statements where they said it was forbidden to marry on a moed, mutarin lisei erev haregel. It is permitted, however, to marry on the eve of the holiday. Kashilakuhum. There's a problem with all of them. And tune in tomorrow, and we'll see what it is.
We say that the minhag or halacha that you should buy jewelry or dress for your wife. For Yom Tov. This would imply that you shouldn't do that.
Thank you.
Tomorrow's a long Gemara, gentlemen.
Tomorrow I will be.
Have a good. I just saw somebody else leave. All right, guys. Everybody stay well. Harvey, you were on, and Ruvain was on.
Yeah. Permissible to use cryptocurrency to buy a crypt. Is that?
Will you just do me a favor? Just clarify with Steve where it is.
I did.
You did, okay? Because we had a discussion this morning.
Buy a crypt.